Here we are. Ozonics Killerwinds podcast, episode number 6. Back at it again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Today we are talking about what do you do during the lull?
Yes.
The lull is, let's just say, the month of May, June, July.
Yeah.
The lull when the deer are growing, but there's not any seasons open.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a brutal time.
Yep. It can be kind of sometimes I think that's the hardest time of year for a person.
Yeah.
Because you're still you're a couple months away and everything's out, the deer are growing and things are happening, but you're just not knocking an arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you and I are in kind of a little bit different situations when it comes to the lull as well.
Yeah.
I've been real fortunate that I've got a few permission pieces that I can hunt on. And so I know for me, I was just mentioning this to you the other day, we're, a few days, less than a week out from turkey season being over. I joked with you, I'm like, man, I can't wait so I wish turkey season would go on forever, but but part of what I'm looking forward to is I went, and you were with me, we went out when we were shed hunting. Part of what I do when I shed hunt as well is I will go scout spots because when the snow finally melts, it looks very similar to November.
Yeah.
You can see the trails, you can see the rubs, you can see the scrapes.
Yeah.
You can get a good idea of what went down the fall before and use that intel to move stands, to make decisions and adjust.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took that time. For us, that kind of happened in the month of March here in northern Iowa. And I've got a few spots that I'm going to be going out and setting stands and cutting some lanes and just kind of fine tuning.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I'm hunting all public land this year. So it kind of creates even more of a lull. I mean, because you can't be hanging stands out there yet. I could be hanging trail cameras, but it's like at this point, it's a little bit early yet, I think. But yeah, so to fill the void between now and end of July-ish, I'll be fishing a lot, which helps me a lot.
Bass fisherman.
Yeah, I love bass fishing. It's a lot of fun. So that'll be nice. Kind of use that to kind of keep me sane for a while.
Yep.
But I'm obviously always still thinking about whitetails, so I'll be starting up here pretty soon. I'll be doing a lot of velvet filming, just driving around, see what I can see. It's cool to kind of see the progression of where they're at in their growth stages and whatnot. It's a little different when you're driving all over heck. You just see kind of random bucks. You don't really see the same deer too much. But like, for example, at home, I just would drive the same route every single night, and it was kind of cool. I saw a couple bucks, and then actually, like, the one I saw it, and then probably like a week later, I got a trail cam picture of it, and then he stayed there all throughout the year, so I got to see him grow and stuff like that, and he turned out to be a really nice buck. But so for now, for me, it's just going to be fishing and driving around with the camera, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but it gets a lot more fun when it gets a little bit closer to the season and you see some deer that are getting to be, where they're going to be at for the fall. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, talking about being a little early for trail cams, I've got trail cams still out for turkey. I've got trail cams out for turkey season that I'm just trying to scout spots on, and I'm starting to see, bucks start to grow.
Yeah, we've seen a couple too. Yeah. Actually, turkey hunting too.
Yeah, where they're, probably 3 or 4 inches off their head.
Yeah.
Nothing major. Yeah. Actually, where we're at in our office, our Ozonics office is in Mason City. There's actually, they call it East Park. There's this little park. It's down by the Winnebago River, and they've got a deer pen there, which it's kind of funny. They've got a buck and a couple does in there, and I always kind of keep tabs on him.
Yeah.
We kind of lost a little bit of time there with turkey season, but we had gone by it was late March.
Yeah, it was late. He was
still holding both sides.
Yeah, so he dropped pretty late.
Yeah, and so it's kind of funny. I kind of use that as my little bit of an indicator.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not like all the rest, but because he's in a pen, it's not like the biggest pen ever. But you'd think if there's plenty of fence around, he could knock him off that way or whatever. But he held pretty late, and then we just drove by today, and he was, 2-3 inches off his head.
Yeah,
not like he was split off his brow or anything.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah,
I have seen in turkey season bucks that were split off their brow.
Yeah.
Just like kind of 2 big stumps.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that this year.
Yeah. And it's funny to think about that. We saw that buck in the pen with full set of antlers.
Yeah.
Still hasn't
While we
dropped.
were out shed hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to shed hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next time we saw him today, he's sprouting velvet already.
I know.
It's just funny how fast it goes.
Well, yeah, it almost feels like they almost drop them because they're
Other ones are coming up.
Yeah, the other ones are coming up, which is pretty wild to think about.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And it, like you said, that is the hard thing on public pieces. It is early, and you can't be out there cutting lanes and setting stuff. And I mean, to put cams out, it is, I mean, I'm a dork and I leave my cams out because I do even just like to see them as they progress. And I know my little boy Jet gets a real kick out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
But yeah, and I would say the other thing for the both of us that we're not doing that a lot of guys are in way full swing in right now is food plots.
Yeah.
You know, the permission pieces that I have, I don't have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I can't, I've never had I don't know, I guess not the right pitch or whatever to talk a landowner and to say, hey, can I trim out this and put a plot in here? Or can we take this section of the field?
Yeah.
You know, so, and it's not any land that I own. So food plots have never been a thing for me. I don't have the equipment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, a lot of guys rent it or have buddies that do it or help them with it, but I just don't have that. You know, so I know a lot of guys right now are in full swing food plots.
Oh yeah.
Getting everything in the ground, and we've had good rain to really help with that.
Yeah, yeah, and I actually spoke too soon. I'm kind of in Iowa mode right now, but you know, I will be hunting at home in Wisconsin a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's stuff I could be doing up there as well, clearing lanes, and I would really like to figure out. I kind of want to move some sets around so we could maybe get 2 guys up there.
Oh,
because I think it'd be really fun. Maybe if we could sneak up there for a weekend and you come and film me, show you the home farm a little bit.
Yep.
I don't think you'll be too impressed, but it'd still be kind of cool.
No, dude, deer hunting's deer hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me. I don't really discriminate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to shoot a big one, but like if it's a deer and it's legal and if it's a doe, we can shoot them out. Let's shoot them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be really fun. And I kind of want to do that. I actually probably will do that. I'm going to head home here in this weekend, and next weekend I'll probably make a trip up there and see what I can figure out, see if I can find some spots. But we did have pretty big plans to do food plots this year too, but now that I'm down here, I don't know how much we're going to do, if we're going to be doing it, you know, as much as what we kind of planned, but so we'll see there. But so I guess I spoke too soon. I do have some work that I could definitely be doing at home.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Well, I think you kind of hit on a good point there. That is a bit of a thing that is going to take me a little bit more time this year as well, is that pretty much everything that I have set is just for a single set.
Yeah.
I'm you know, if I take Jet out hunting or bow out hunting, it's funny, I've never been much of a ladder stand guy. And these last few years I've invested in a couple double ladders because just that fact. I don't feel super comfortable having Jet climb up, you know, my spacing of, you know, step sections up into a hang-on tree stand. Not that I'm worried about the hang-on falling, but it's just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little much.
Yeah, it can be a little clunky for him, you know. Whereas just having him climb up a nice ladder is pretty easy. So I've got a couple devil sets, but you know, you and I hopefully getting a chance to hunt together here on some of these permission pieces, even on some of the public land. We talk about kind of dividing and conquering on those too.
Yeah.
When we get that window of time when we could start setting stands and get stuff out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and adjust some of the stuff I have right now.
Yeah.
Because I know I can get in there, but we even looked at a couple. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to move that down or over if we're going to put another stand in there. So there's some of that stuff that I want to try to kind of look at and think about as well.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of them are pretty mint though.
Yeah.
I think we'll be fine there.
But one of the things I was going to say too, that, you know, when I go out and I set stands that I've kind of done differently from years past, probably for the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't know what changed, like what, you know, kind of changed for me. I don't know if it's just kids and thinking about more than just myself, you know, and not wanting to have something bad happen. But I've really started in all my hang-ons to use lifelines.
Yeah.
You know, that has been a huge thing for me. I like the idea of being able to clip in right when you're standing at the base of your tree and, you know, take it with you all the way up and just always be tied in. Yeah. That really just gives me a sense of security and just confidence. And that's just been a huge thing. Like I said, I've got, and I actually have, the other thing I would say about lifelines that I really like is Hunter Safety Systems makes a reflective lifeline. Yeah. And that works really, really good. Right. A lot of times I walk in with just a headlamp and I always just run it on a red light,
Yeah.
and it's just a little bit of light. Red doesn't ruin that night vision on your eyes, so you can still see, but you shine that red up, and you wouldn't think that it could go that far, but it just catches
Yeah.
that reflective. And man, you just always, if you can get, there's times when you can get a little turned around, things get a little wonky in the dark, and it's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty handy for that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I think it should be something that's almost like required when you're climbing up into a stand.
Yeah.
It's so easy to use. It's like, why wouldn't you? You
Well,
know?
yeah, absolutely. And, I joked, I've gotten to know some of the guys at Hunter Safety Systems, and I joked with them, it's like the saying that I always say is that gravity is the invisible enemy of every bow hunter.
Yeah.
It does the same thing to everybody.
Yeah.
If you jump out of it or you fall out, gravity does the same thing. It takes you straight down.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. It's just nice to know that it's there.
Yeah.
That would be the thing that I was going to ask you about too. Like hypothetically, like even say in Wisconsin on your guys' permission piece there, I hunt out of a lot of hang on tree stands.
Yeah.
I have a lone wolf climber that I've used for a lot of years that in certain situations I'll use. I don't hunt out of a saddle.
Mm-hmm.
I know you saddle hunt.
Yeah.
So for you, like if I was going out on a weekend and go, okay, this weekend I'm going to go scout some spots and I'm going to cut some lanes or I'm going to set a stand. So would you go in there and just scout a spot and go, okay, this is maybe the 50, 40 yards of section that I think I want to be in? Or would you go and go, that's the tree I want, and cut lanes accordingly? Or how do you do that when it comes, if you're saddle hunting more often than not, how does that work? You know what I mean? When it comes to your summertime stuff.
Yeah. See, that's the funny thing. Like the only reason I saddle hunted was because the guy I was filming was in a saddle.
Okay.
So like, I don't really have too much experience, setting up for the saddle, and I don't even know what I'm going to do this fall yet.
Yeah.
I can't decide what I want to do.
Yeah.
But no. So, but like, kind of getting back to your question, I guess I'm going to divert away from the saddle thing because I don't really know,
Okay.
to be honest. But at our permission piece, a lot of I know I've said this before, but we hunt a lot of field edges, and so like the trees on the edges are kind of slim pickings. Like there's like the trees that we're in right now are like the trees that you almost have to kind of be in.
Yep.
Works out good, but so for the most part, it's kind of just finding a good tree that you can get up into, and then just kind of making it work from there.
Got it.
Compared to if you were in hardwoods and stuff, you kind of probably have a little bit more options to pick from. But yeah, I mean, like I said, like it's like God placed these trees like perfectly for us, because really that is like where our stands are right now. Like they're the perfect spots. So, but yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I'm actually gonna start looking at trees to hunt in on public. That's gonna be a huge learning curve because, like I said, I've never hunted public myself, but I film people on public.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be a pretty fun thing to kind of tackle and take head on and, try that out. It's going to be a big learning curve throughout the summer because, I mean, even though you can't hang stuff there, I think it'll be good to go to the spots and check them out and kind of get an idea at least.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing for me about public land. Where I live at now, I've been real fortunate. Like I said, I got a couple spots. But when I first moved to the north central Iowa, I was born and raised in north central Iowa, Belmont, Iowa. Okay. But where I live now is Clear Lake, which you wouldn't think is very far, but it's just far enough, right? Where you're not like a local person, right?
Yeah.
When you go in. And so there was a lot of years there that I just kind of just accepted that I'll just hunt public land.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people around here. And it's always a tricky thing. You don't step on people's toes. So I hunted public land.
Yeah.
But then I had tree stand stolen
Yeah.
public land. You're like, golly, it's like, if this isn't hard enough.
Yeah.
And then, it's like you think you'd stick together and then you get stuff stolen.
Right.
So what I started doing is I started chaining all my stuff in.
Yeah.
I would buy chains and then I would actually put them in like I can't think what it's called, but it's some sort of like acid. And I would, it would take the chrome off the chain.
Yeah.
And then I would just go kind of rub it in the dirt and it would look real rusted color.
Yeah.
And then when you put that wrapped around your tree stand, it looked just like the tree. You didn't even know it was there.
Right.
So I got in the habit of chaining my tree stands in and then trying to put the lock in a very peculiar position where the guy wouldn't be able to try to get to it or cut it. He could still cut the chain, but I wouldn't think of guys walking in there with a bolt cutters. If you're going to tree stand with a bolt cutters, then you've got a bigger problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just got in the habit of chaining stuff in.
Yeah.
So I'd ask you that, like when you were filming guys last year, did they ever chain stuff in, or they just hang it?
Never.
Just hang it.
We did hanging hunts every single hunt.
Oh, you did hanging hunts.
Every single hunt.
So it wasn't just already set up.
Never, yeah. I mean, we were able to hunt right behind our house, like 100 yards behind our house.
Yeah.
And there was a couple nights where we hunted that spot at night, and then we're like, well, we'll just leave the set here and we'll just crawl up here in the morning.
Got it.
But yeah, other than that, it was all hanging hunts. We would just, I mean, that is the huge positive of the saddles. I mean, it adds 4 pounds to your pack.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so light. I mean, it is a huge learning curve because it is way different. You know, it's a very different way of hunting, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, but like I said, that one big positive is just how light it is and how easy it is to pack in and out, especially when we're hunting public land. Like, I mean, we were walking a ways in pretty much every single hunt. So
Right.
that was a big reason of why we did it. So
Yeah.
and it was probably safer too to hang everything too, just with it being so light.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Absolutely.
but yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. No, like I said, and I have a couple of buddies that are really into the hang and hunt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just carry it in and they just find where they want to go. And
yeah,
and it's funny, climber tree stands have kind of I don't know if say fallen to the wayside, but I don't know many people.
yeah,
I mean, I have a climber stand and it's big and heavy, but I know how to use it and I've had good luck with it over the years, but you don't see many guys that hunt out of climbers anymore. I mean, I don't even know many companies that like sell them.
No, yeah.
I mean, you still see them like in catalogs and stuff, or if you're clicking around on the internet, you'll see them every once in a while, but I don't know anybody but myself that like has one.
Actually, when I went home last, Dad actually had one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, lone wolf one.
Oh, yes.
It's
That's what
actually
I've
pretty
got.
nice.
Yeah, I have a lone wolf one and I love it. But I'll tell you what, that would be the one thing that I would challenge you to do. And I said this to you yesterday when we kind of talked about this topic. I haven't done this. I have no friends that will go out in May, June, July when they're out velvet filming or just not even velvet filming, just velvet scouting.
Yeah.
You know, and just taking their phone scope and just trying to get it on their cell phone, just trying to get some recon. You know, I have buddies that will knock on a lot of doors.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And now in this day and age of Onyx and all these other map, programs that are out there.
Yeah.
You know, I remember back in the day when, funny, and actually in Belmont, Iowa, they made plat map books.
Yeah.
Where you know, and there was a bunch of people that I knew in high school that worked for that company that would go in and like type it all out and I would go buy them and then I would drive around the section and be like, oh, my phone's ringing. It's my wife. I should probably answer that. Just 1 second. You know, back in the day, I used to have like an actual plat map book for the county that I wanted to have, and I would flip through it depending on what road I was on and actually find who the landowner was and find their phone number and try to call them, or then, you know, go through the phone book, know where their address was. I had an atlas and I'd go try to find who they were. But I feel like this day and age with Onyx and all these other programs, you know, that would be a thing I would maybe challenge you to do during the month of May, June, July. I mean, heck, you know, it does take a little bit of gumption to just walk up to somebody's house.
Yeah.
And when I've done it, you know, I have gotten a lot of no's, you know, it's funny, the story about the spot that I do a lot of my hunting on now. You know, it's kind of funny. I kind of get in the routine. If I stop at somebody's house and if they tell me no, I'll stop again the next year. You know, like I've stopped and like, so what about this year? You know what I mean? Like, nope.
At least you're persistent.
Yeah. And honestly, that paid off for me.
Yeah.
Because I stopped and he was real gruff with me and nope, no hunting. Oh, okay. All right. And well, thanks, you know, have a good day. My name's Cole. And then the next year, same thing. Hey, what about doing some hunting? Nope. Okay. Well, then I kind of switched my tactics. I was like, well, what about if I try to see if I can do some turkey hunting? You know, hey, what about turkey hunting? No, I don't think so. Oh, no. Then finally the next year he was like, well, I guess you can go 4th season. I was like, jackpot, I'm in, you know? And then that turned into, you know, I was lucky enough to harvest turkey out there. And then, finally I just said, I'm like, man, what do I got to do? Like, I've asked you all these years, like, you know, like, do you have guys hunting out here or, you know, what's the deal? And he did have other people hunting out there.
Yeah.
Right. Which can be kind of a little bit of a trick too.
Yeah.
you know, because I know that if he let somebody else out there right now, I'd be like, really? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact of the matter is I don't own it.
Yeah.
And a lot like public land, you can't control that.
No,
you know,
yeah,
and
exactly.
permission pieces are a lot the same way. If you don't want other people out there, then lease it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of the reality. So I always just try to be like, well, yeah, hey man, these are where my stands are.
Yeah.
If you're out here, you're out here. I'll be out here. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But you never know, just knocking on some doors
exactly. And
where
I
that
mean-
might get you.
I mean, you're looking for me, like you're looking for one yes.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't care if it takes 60 no's, 100 no's, you're just looking for that one, you know?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I have a friend that's done it that way.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of no's, but all of a sudden you get a guy to say yes, or hey, you know what? You should go talk to this guy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And sometimes the guys that you end up getting yes from is a guy that says yes to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the other trick, because that's the other permission piece I have out that way.
Yeah.
Is he says yes to everyone.
Yeah.
So there's like 4 or 5 people
Yeah.
out there. So that's a little bit tricky too. Now I've been able to harvest some turkeys out there.
Yeah.
And there's obviously deer there too.
Yeah.
That when they see someone run away, because they're obviously getting a little bit of pressure.
Right.
But that's
Yeah.
just part of it.
Yeah. It feels way different in Wisconsin. It feels like there's a very slim chance of you getting a yes.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, I would say that about northern Iowa, southern Iowa. I think it's that way there in
Yeah.
the difference here too.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, I mean, like every single piece that like I drop by, I'm like, oh, I know who owns there. I know who owns here. And it's like, I don't want to step on any toes. That one funny story, I have asked or tried to ask for permission. There's I don't know how many acres it is, but it's just prime.
Yeah, it's just primo. Huh?
It borders the south side of the property that I hunt. And the lady's really old. She's like 75, 80. And everybody's like, don't even try asking. She'll freak out, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right. Well, one day I went down there to ask her, and her dog just flew off the chain, like just freaking out. And I knocked on the door, nothing. And I left. And then I don't know why, but she's kind of a creepy looking old lady.
Yeah.
Every time I drive by her house all the time, because that's part of my loop that I take looking for deer. And there was like, right after I looked, there was like 3 times. I don't know if she like recognizes my truck or anything, but she'll just be standing outside and she just gives me just a death stare the entire time. I'm like,
That's funny.
like, you know what? I'm just going to let this one soak for a little bit.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, talking about a creepy old lady story, that's a funny thing. So I used to go to Iowa State, which is in Ames, Iowa, and just west of Ames, which I don't know. I'm surprised that they don't try to like a little bit campaign more towards rednecks, because it is like, there is a lot of good deer hunting along the Des Moines River.
Yeah.
Right. And north and all around Ames, there's a lot of good country. And I was like, moving northwest of Ames along the river, and just driving. Same thing. It was February. So I'm trying to, scout for some turkey spots. Right. Well, I'm looking on and this was just when like apps started coming out where it would like, just kind of like not show you every little thing, but I could see some stuff. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm looking at like an aerial photo. I'm like, oh, this driveway, there's like a house at the end of that, and like, there's a bunch of good ground right there. And then around the section, there was more houses. And I was like, oh, I'll just kind of make this big loop and I'll ask permission. So I pull in this big long driveway. It was this nice white house, and there was like nobody there. But when I pulled up, like I pulled into her driveway, the yard was like all just dirt, like dirt. It was like, there was no snow, and it was weird. I was just like, that's weird. Like, I'm like, kind of like trying to like, am I going to get like abducted, So I get out of my truck and I go knock on the door, and I can you can like see in the window, and I see this old lady kind of like coming to the door, and I'm like, oh crap, because I was like, that in my experience, sometimes they'll say yes, like maybe they said yes to this other guy, and then you're just like, oh crap. So, she comes up, she's like, hi. And I was like, hey, how you doing? My name's Cole. And I just didn't know if you owned any of this ground around here. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I said, well, is there anybody else hunting it? I'm trying to like see if, yeah, I think so. And my boy, and I was like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. Just forget it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and I said, she goes, well, are you hunt? I'm like, well, yeah, that's how I was just see if I could get permission. Well, yeah, you can probably go. And I'm like, no. If your boy, he probably hunts, you know what I mean? And so, and I was like, well, do you have like a piece of paper? I wrote down my name, my phone number. I was like, well, listen, the next time he stops by, you tell him to call me and we'll talk, so I can not, get in trouble with the guy. Yeah. So she's like, well, hey, while you're here, can you help me with something? I was like,
oh, geez.
Sure. She's like, well, I'll open the garage door. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, what the heck? So I like go back out to her garage. She goes through the house, gets to the garage door. I'm sitting there waiting. The garage door goes up. I'm like, right inside the garage door, she had it was like just what I thought it was going to be. It was like a Cadillac, and then there was these big tin trash bins, silver ones, just like you'd think, right?
Yeah.
She pops the top of it, and it's full of corn, and there's a scoop, and she's got like a 5-gallon bucket. She's like, hey, fill this up. And I go, okay. And she goes, and here, go pour it over there on the ground. And she goes, when you walk over there, like, hit the side of the pail with the scooper. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, I feed the deer. And she had like bird feeders everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, this is going to be awesome. So I fill it all the way up, or like most of the way. And I go over there, I take a scoop, and I'm like it was on the big dirt spot, right? And I'm pouring it on, like kind of put it out. And she's like kind of standing there, like watching me. And she's like, okay, now hit the side of the pail. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, okay. So I walk back over and I like put the thing away and like put the lid back on. And she's like, now watch, they're going to come out. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm kind of standing there, and dude, I swear to God, it wasn't but like 30 seconds. And I just see this like doe, just like kind of like, and she just walks right in. I mean, she just like came out of nowhere. I'm like, where were you? And she must have been like bedded right there.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm like, so I was like, hey, cool. And I thought, oh, what are the closer get? Dude, they walked right up. I mean, we were like 20 feet from them. So I'm kind of standing there, I'm like kind of trying to make conversation. Like, oh, that's pretty nice. Like, do you feed the deer a lot? Oh yeah, I feed them all year. And I really like watching them, and I like watching my birds and all this. I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, and literally I can't, and this is seriously what happened. I'm like, do you ever see any bucks, coming in here? Oh yeah, there should be a couple coming here. And so another couple does walk in, and I'm kind of looking, and I'm kind of like just making as much conversation as I can. I'm like, come on, let something awesome walk out. Dude. And it wasn't 200 inches, but it had to have been in like the 160s. This like just awesome, just mainframe 10. Just like you could tell he's like, okay, you girls go out there first. Let me know it's safe. And then he just like marched right in, went right to the middle of the pile, like kind of bumped him out of the way. And I'm just like, oh, he was right there, It was like, holy cow.
Oh,
so that was pretty funny. But the funnier thing about that whole day is I did that, which was amazing. It was like so cool to see it. Drove back out, drove around the other side of the section. Well, I find this other big, long lane, big house. I'm like, oh, this looks like a good spot. So I drive down the lane, knock on the door. This woman comes to the door and, hi, how you doing? Good, good. I was like, hey, I didn't know if you own any of this ground. I give my whole spiel. She's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know if you allow anybody to hunt out here. She goes, well, my family's pretty into hunting, so I don't think so. And I was like, oh, okay, no problem. That's totally fine. I said, well, I thought I'd ask. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. And she's like, well, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I go to school at Iowa State, Well, are you from Iowa? And I was like, yeah, I grew up in Belmont and da-da-da. And she's like, oh, cool. Well, it's great meeting you and this and that. And I was like, okay, thanks. And I was driving a Nissan Maxima, right? Like I didn't have a truck. So I drive down the driveway. And of course I'm just like on to the next place. So I drive down to the next house. I pull in, same thing, spiel, give my spiel. And the guy's like, he jokes like, sounds like you've been saying this a couple times. I said, oh yeah, I've stopped at every house. And he goes, did you stop at the last one? I said, yeah. He said, did anybody talk to you? I said, yeah. I talked to some lady. Does she have dark brown hair? And I was like, yeah. Do you know who that was? I was like, no. Here come find out it was Terry Branstad's house, or Branstad, however you say it, the governor of Iowa. That was his house. That's where he lived. And that was his place. And I guess he's got like 3 boys, that all are like big hunters, Oh, and he was elected governor. Then he did something else. And I think he became the governor again for a while or something. I don't even know. But he was a governor at the time. And here I am, like trying to get permission on his ground. And his wife was like, I think that's why she was asking me.
Oh, for sure.
Probably said, oh yeah, another guy stopped and he said he was from here and he grew up here. But it was just the craziest thing. But you never know what you're going to find when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's funny.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we make this a little bit shorter today.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, like you said, just talking a little bit about what you do during the lull. And like I said, you never know. When you knock on some doors, you might get permission, and all of a sudden you're on an unbelievable spot. You know what I mean? And the good thing about the lull is when the lull's over, then all the excitement comes.
Go time, baby.
Yep, it's go time. All right, well, thanks for listening. This is Ozonics Killerwind Podcast. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Thanks for listening, and good luck out there.